Hey everyone, happy
Happy Monday,
Monday
guys.
and happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone out there.
So, we want to say thank you for your service to all the veterans.
Say
And
that.
for those of you that are new to our show, this is the Monday Rundown for us. The Monday Rundown. We get excited about it because we can talk about all the things we don't normally talk about on our Wednesday show. And Wednesdays are typically revolve business discussions, entrepreneurship discussions, and now we get to talk about all the other things. So we love Mondays. We then look to other content creators and other thought leaders who have a lot to say on the topic of the day. So keep bringing us your topics so we can discuss. And then we all just learn together. It's a lot of fun. Last week was great. And
Absolutely.
some of us may be experiencing a little bit of trauma after election day. Could be a thing. But we're here for you. We're here for you because today's topic is
Say
really
that. All right, let's jump into it.
why do we ignore our pain until it breaks us? Ugh.
Ooh.
Great question. I'm gonna say we ignore it maybe because we're just not aware. So I think there's a little bit of an awareness. Maybe you're not aware. And then I know for me, I mean, we were just
Mhm.
talking about like entrepreneurial stuff, but I'll just be honest, like as a full-time entrepreneur, I'm like, no, 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 I got to do this first. The business takes priority. I got to do whatever it is for the business first before I can take care of myself sometimes. And that's not healthy. But I know I'd be lying if I said I didn't do that. I
Mhm.
found myself doing that from time to time. So um, I think I'm going to use going to the bathroom as an example. There are some times where I will like hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, right? Like I'm doing all the things. Wait, nope, I don't need to put it off. Keep doing the thing that I'm doing, keep doing, like, keep going, keep going. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I can't hold it anymore. I'm like running or whatever. And it's like, right, you like ignore it until it like breaks you, right? Until you're like, I can't do this anymore. Now that's a very much more facetious example, but it's the same idea, right? Like
Mhm.
going to the bathroom is a normal function, just like I think having emotional pains. We've seen enough school of life to know that that is a normal part of our existence. And yet we now know in our current state, we know that ignoring it is not a good thing. And
Healthy
yet
thing, yeah.
we still do it. Yeah, it's not the healthiest. That's probably the best word. And yet we still do it. So that's my
I
take on why we ignore. And this should say emotional pain or
that's a
mental.
physical. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good point. Good point. So to that specific question, I agree with you. I also think so much of, and this probably may be more cultural, but I just think what we're taught
Mm,
is it there's this idea I think of resilience or toughing things out. There's some sense of, I don't know if the word is honor, because I don't want to. I know on Veterans Day, so I don't want to necessarily. Well, no, actually, yeah, I think there is this idea of the more challenging things have been, the harder it is
mm,
for you on the other side of this. That all these challenging challenges is some victory. And so I think even when it comes to mental challenges, I almost feel not that we're maybe calling, we're not going out maybe looking for these things, but I
mhm,
do think there's some idea of, going through things on your own. It shows some sense of, strength is viewed as some, it's strong, you're stronger if you're able to go through this
mhm,
challenging thing on your own. And what I would think of vulnerability, or how I used to think of it, was almost like a curse word, but
mm,
it's like a sense of weakness. The idea of vulnerability, being vulnerable, used to me be considered how you showing up weak.
mhm,
And I want to say through my maturity, I've learned it's actually the opposite. To be
mm,
vulnerable is to be strong, because it actually it does take a lot.
mm,
Again, based on how, a lot of things I know I was taught, it takes a lot to share things
mm,
that I wouldn't have been. I wasn't raised being taught how to speak about or to be open about. It actually takes a lot more And I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people are just taught because we didn't have a lot of the language or education around many taboo topics.
Hmm.
So you're just taught not to talk about those things. And we've, to your point, we've learned so much as entrepreneurs and just through life that that's not as healthy. It's actually way better to come up. I mean, your book talks about a lot of this. You know, just the way we think and the things that we're thinking and speaking to where we're speaking to ourselves um, is influenced by this idea of not knowing it's okay to be open. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it's the thing that came to mind literally as you initially started speaking was, you know, a dog sitting on a nail. Like we heard that adage, is like, why doesn't he get off the nail? It's like, oh, it's not bad enough yet. It's not
Mm.
hurting him enough yet.
Mm.
And I think somebody, if we were to say that, like, oh, that's a tough dog, it could sit on that nail, right? Think about it. You'd probably consider
Yeah.
it strong that the dog is sitting on the nail.
Right.
And it wouldn't be considered strong if the dog got off the nail and got somebody to look at the, you know, the mark, the wherever the injury took was
You're
happening.
right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. I think again, it's just it's the way it's the old way we view certain paradigms. I think is what we have to change in order to really address some of these things.
Say that. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. So what do
Well,
you got?
it's not just us. You guys know that we are fans, big fans of the School of Life. And so let's see what they've got to say on the matter.
We a fan. We a fan. We a fan. All right.
A lot about our behavior doesn't make sense until we can take on board a basic idea about the way that we humans are built, that our biology privileges survival over self-awareness. In other words, the most important priority for members of our species is to live and to keep going, not to pause, understand, and take stock. Place any new human in a terrible circumstance, let's say in a home with a violent or alcoholic parent, or an abusive or depressed one, and it won't, as one might imagine it could, be able to focus clearly on what's gone wrong or mourn its condition. It will simply, as we've ascertained it must, keep going. In order to do this, it will call upon a range of innate survival techniques. It may start to think surprisingly well of its parents, declaring them justified in their beatings, selfishness, or humiliations. It might assiduously blame itself, rather than sparing any pity for its own deprivations. Let's remember that a sense of self-compassion can be a very dangerous thing indeed when one is 5 years old, and no one would listen, even if one yelled. Or else it will ward off despair through activity. It will overachieve at school, or break windows, or become obsessed with drugs or sport or politics. Anything not to have to listen to the buzz inside. The benighted child can't look back. It can't glance down. It must simply stare ahead at the main goal, survival. This priority can last for a very long time indeed. After all, a sense of external security isn't remotely assured for most of us until we've settled in a career, built up some capital, bought a home, found a spouse, maybe had some children, by which time we might be in our 40s or 50s. Yet our excellence at survival doesn't take away from the basic fact of our situation. We've been born into a mess. We have the ingredients of madness inside us. We've been unmoored by cruelty. We are, quietly, in the recesses of our soul, close to insanity at points, the ineluctable result of too much suffering encountered too soon. But as the external world gets ever safer for us, the internal world has a chance to feel as troubled as it's always been. We may feel far stranger inside at 40 than at 20, even though the causes of our disturbances lie in events far closer to the latter date than the former. Eventually, the pent-up fear and sadness are liable to find a way through. We'll start to do something odd, write long letters to strangers, or crash the car, or sob in public, or develop a certainty that the government is following us. The legacy of the unkindness of which we've been the recipients begins to emerge. With any luck, we may soon enough wind up in a clinic or the consulting room of an experienced therapist, and here have a chance to find out more about the sadness and loss that have been inside us since the start. We may finally feel safe enough to let out a very long scream and meet with the love and understanding that were our due from the start.
That was really interesting. I feel like ultimately their point is because we're so busy trying to survive, we don't have time to like sit and become aware of what's happened to us. And many people don't even get that luxury until they're much older in life when they've done all the things. um, that was my biggest takeaway is like, oh, okay, I get that makes sense. You know, if so many of us are still caught up in survival, of course
It's actually,
we would
yeah.
like we won't know until it breaks us or we ignore it until it breaks us because we're focused on surviving anyway. But yes, go ahead.
No, no. It was the way they described what we do in those during those or with the trauma, or with the I don't know, call it trauma because I don't know if that's how it's perceived, but with those behaviors that we encounter at that stage and how our mind makes sense of it. That stood out to me for sure the most. I thought that was really interesting. I agree with you as well. The facet then is that later we're not given the opportunity because we are just moving through life, so you're not having a time to look back. And then when they talked about, but then in your 40s, which is interesting, you and I definitely feel like my journey into mental, I guess maybe awareness, because I know I went to therapy in college, or my first experience was in college. So yeah, I would say anywhere from my 20s for sure to my 40s is, I feel like, has been a journey about mental health or mental awareness / health / entrepreneur, all those different aspects for sure.
True. I agree with you there. Well, let us know what you guys think. I'm super curious to know from the rest of the folks who are out here listening. Do you feel like you're still in survival mode? Is that the thing that's keeping you? Did you recognize some of the things that they said? Like, are you at the breaking point? Have you been like making yourself super busy? Are you now like writing really long letters to strangers? Or do you think that
I
the
know
government?
that had you laughing. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Do you think the government is watching you? Like, we want to know. We want to know. Let us know. This has been really, really interesting. I'm certainly going to think about this one a little bit more myself. But we will see you next week. And until then, as always, remember that you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that. We'll see you guys. Have an amazing week.